Okay, so sources of American law. Where does our law come from? Well, certainly we can look at constitutional law. That's always fun. All right, so a constitution is a document that sets forth the general organization, powers, and limits of their respective governments. Okay, that's what our Constitution does, the Constitution of the United States. It sets up our government. Okay, and in the first 10 amendments, the Bill of Rights gives us individual rights, but the Constitution itself actually sets up the government. Article 4 of the Constitution makes the Constitution the supreme law of the land. Okay, so the Constitution sets that up for us. Other sources of law: statutory law, black letter law, law enacted by legislative bodies. If you remember back to high school government, the executive branch carries out the law, the legislative branch makes the law, and the judicial branch interprets the law. So statutory law is law itself that is made by the legislative. All right. When passed, it is included in the code of law or relevant state code. Okay, so for federal, United States Code, and for Georgia, it'd be Georgia Code. Ordinance, on the other hand, are laws passed by a municipal or county governing units to govern matters not covered by federal or state laws. So here in the great metropolis of Athens, you can't smoke within so many feet of downtown. Well, that's not a state law. That's an ordinance. Okay? Uniform laws. These are model laws that are that the state may adopt if they choose to do so. Now, when a state adopts these laws, only then does it actually become law. Example: the Uniform Commercial Code. Right? That is a uniform law that has become statutory law. Or I think every state in the Union has adopted some form of the UCC. What about the Model Penal Code? Okay, not adopted by Georgia, but this would be for criminal law. Okay, Uniform Commercial Code in and of itself is probably something we'll dive into quite a bit in this textbook, but it deals with matters affecting commerce. Right? How do we move goods around? Between the 50 states. Has been adopted by all 50 states, in fact. The District of Columbia, and the Virgin Islands. These are all examples of statutory law. Administrative law, on the other hand, consists of the rules, orders, and decisions of administrative agencies. The IRS. Yay. All right, an administrative agency is a federal, state, or local governing agency established to perform a specific function. The FCC, the SEC, not the Southeastern Conference, but the Securities and Exchange Commission. All right, federal agencies, you can generally have two kinds. The executive agencies within the cabinet department of the executive branch, namely the president. Independent regulatory agencies, and these are some I was talking about. The Federal Trade Commission, Securities and Exchange Commission, the IRS. Gotta love paying taxes. State and local agencies. Agencies are also at the state and local level and are similar to their federal counterparts. So again, within the government, we're seeing this hierarchy. You have the federal side, you have the state side, you have the local municipality, and pretty much the models are the same throughout. All right. Case law and common law doctrine. Well, obviously, case law and common law comes from Great Britain. That's where we're from. But look at this. Rules of law announced in court decisions constitute another basic source of American law. Case law is the doctrines and principles announced in cases, governs all areas not covered by statutory law. Okay, so case law, those are court opinions. Right? You go before the judge. Judge makes a ruling, writes down an opinion. Generally, this only happens at the Court of Appeals level in the Supreme Court. Well, those opinions become case law, and they're kept in what we call a reporter. And you can go and look those up, and you can learn what the law is. Okay, that's why we read cases from time to time. Furthermore, cases can interpret what the statutes mean. Remember, statutes are made by the legislative body. But this case law will interpret what is meant, the interpretation of those statutes. So that's case law. Common law traditions. Because of our English roots, Much of American law is based on English common law. All right? Early English courts had what we call the common law, a body of general rules that apply throughout the entire English realm. Okay, now what this is the king. All right, if you had a problem, you went before the king and the king made a decision. Well, when the king made a decision, it was written down, and that became law. Okay? And if this happens for several hundred years, all of a sudden you have a body of law, aka the common law. Okay? Courts of law and remedies at law. All right, remedies are the legal means to enforce a right, to redress a wrong. Okay? So that's a remedy. So if you and I enter into a contract and I breach my contract, meaning I don't do something, you're entitled to a remedy. Well, what is that remedy? Courts of law, courts that award compensation, and remedies at law would be land, items of value, or money. Damages, you have monetary damages, money. The courts of equity are a lot more interesting. Generally, courts of equity have the power to grant new and unique remedies, right? This is equity. This is what is fair. So they could grant specific performance, meaning telling you to carry out the contract even though you're in breach, or an injunction telling you to stop doing something. And then equitable maximums. You can read about those on page 9, Exhibit 1.2.